Following the release of the 21 children earlier abducted on the farm in Meirua town of Faskari local government area, Abdullahi Ahmadi now joins us from Katsina for details. Good morning, Abdullahi, and thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak.
Good morning, Darshan and Abdulaziz.
Hello, Abdullahi. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, so what more can you tell us on the release of the children?
Well, information available indicate that parents have to pay the sum of 25,000 naira for each of the abducted children before regaining their freedom as part of their contributions for the release of the children. And this happened even as the children, the breadwinners of their families, almost all of them from poor background, as you can see from the reports. Similarly, the owner of the farm also paid an undisclosed amount of money to the bandits before regaining their freedom. All the 21 children have reunited with their families amid tears of joy last Sunday. And last Saturday. Residents are commenting the media, especially TV and Daily Trust, who have been on the issues since the unfortunate abduction almost a week ago. The district head of Meirua, Alajisani Idris Sambu, informed Trust Television just some couple of minutes ago that the parents are happy and the entire community are happy about the release of the children. Of course, you know, Meirua is, or rather, Faskari local government is part of Fontua zone. And the entire 21, or rather 11 local government of the zone are in a serious state of despair, banditry everywhere, kidnappings everywhere, killings, and so on and so forth. Hardly you find a community that has not been affected by this banditry. And people there are very much worried because, you know, this is the season of harvest. People are evacuating their farm produce to their various residences. And of course, they can no longer access their farms. And you know, Funtua area is the most agrarian area in Katsina State. They have a very fertile land, and most of them are farmers. So people there are very much worried that the pressure is too much on them. They want to evacuate their farm produce, and the bandits are threatening them almost day in, day out. So they're appealing to relevant authorities, especially the government, to do something about it, to enable them access their farms, evacuate their farm produce, and they live a very decent living. I think they need something. They need government intervention, honestly.
So, Abdullah, talking of government intervention, was there any move by the government to help secure the release of these children? What has happened officially since the abduction before the release of these children in Meirua?
Well, when we contacted the police public relations officer in Katsina, he told us that so many things are being done to secure the release of these children. But on the part of the parents, they were saying that nothing is being done by security operatives. They are only making efforts between them and the owner of the farm to secure the release of the children. And from what happened, they contributed 25,000 naira for each abducted child. And then the owner of the farm gave the lion's share of the money, even though we don't know the actual amount paid to secure their release. But you can understand from the three scenarios that it is only the families of the children and, of course, the owner of the farm that made effort towards the release of these children.
Okay, so what happens next now that these children have been released?
Well, they have been released, reunited with their families, and the community, from what I heard from the district head of Mairua, they are taking some measures towards ensuring that they have secured their community. And we learned that neighboring communities that are villages from the neighboring communities of Mairua are coming to Mairua town, and especially from 6 o'clock in the evening to pass the night there and go back to their ancestral homes the next morning. And this happens in almost every community. Less desolated communities go to much desolated communities to pass the night and then go back to their homes the next morning because of fear of attacks. So this is exactly what is happening in that area.
So Abdullahi, what's the general situation right now in Katsina? Of course, the Funtua zone, as you mentioned, this issue of Merua kidnapping and all that, but also even in the other parts like around Batari and Jibia, there are issues. What's the latest? What's happening, and what are officials actually doing beyond words of mouth in tackling this problem?
Well, indeed, there are a lot of issues in areas like Jibia, Bazari, Safana, Damusa, Kurifidusuma, where you can... there are a lot of issues there because so many communities have fled to other safer areas. For instance, in Bazari and Jibia, there are a lot of rural communities that have relocated to other places, and in some communities you can only find the bandits and the terrorists there that are the only people that are living in those communities. For instance, in Yangaye village, and so many communities, they have dislodged the original owners of the communities and are now going about their businesses freely without fear of any security operatives. So communities in Katsina zone, Funtua zone, honestly, there are so many issues there, and there are a lot of issues of insecurity there. Hardly a day passes without recording banditry, cattle wrestling, and other form of attacks. There are a lot of issues, honestly.
Okay, so can you tell us about the efforts of the military in the Funtua axis?
We have military base in almost every local government. But what the people are saying there is they prefer to work, or rather to see vigilantes other than military operatives, honestly, because to some extent the inaction of the military is worrisome there, because even if there is attacks in a nearby community, in a neighboring community with the military base, and the communities reported to the military, they hardly respond to their requests, or rather their complaints. So they prefer to see police and other security operatives other than the military.
Okay, thank you very much, Abdullahi Yamadi, for joining us and for this insight you gave us about the security situation in Katsina State. And we are now being joined in the studio by security and management consultant, Mr. Steve Okori, to continue this conversation. And thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Good morning and welcome.
Thank you.
So what are your thoughts, regarding, you have seen the report, you have seen these peasant people, villagers who as the reporter says, they live hands to mouth, who have their children abducted and all that. Thankfully, they have been released. And then, of course, the general overview that he has given us about the situation in Katsina State. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, you see, the bandits or kidnappers, they are not interested whether the children that were adopted, whether their parents are peasant farmers or they live from hand to mouth. Their only interest is to see how ransom is paid, no matter how small, you know. It's a worrying situation, and it's not just about Katsina alone. You know, it's happening virtually everywhere, you know. But unfortunately, the children were victims, and thank God that they've been released. And from the report by your reporter in Katsina, you see that there's clear, will I say, negligence on the part of the security agencies and on the part of government. Because from the report you heard that the government did not even play any role in their release or even trying to see how the ransoms were raised, you know. So when you look at that zone, about 11 local governments, there's Faskari local government amongst the local government in that zone. And there's a military base in Faskari, you know. So I expect that a lot would have been done, you know, on the part of the military and the police. You know, in the 11 local governments, there are also divisional police headquarters, you know. But unfortunately, it happened in a community where there's no security presence. That's the unfortunate thing about this kind of adoptions. They happen in very rural communities where there's clearly no security presence. You know, you can't see a policeman there, except when incidents like this happen. They will now begin to see how to invite the police to come over there.
Mr. Kwari, ironically, this is a community that actually has a police station, from what I saw in the report, and is actually also on the major road.
Wow. Then it shows that there's a clear unprofessional conduct on the part of the police that are supposed to protect lives and property there, you know. But if you probe further, you see that this very farming community is not anywhere close to where the police station is, you know. So there's, I think there was also a breakdown in communication, you know, the period they were being adopted and all that, and when did the information even get to the police? That's something else, that's something we really need to look at, you know, before they will not begin to see how to respond to such incident, you know. So there's a lot that the law enforcement needs to do, you know, to see how children, adults are protected and from being kidnapped or adopted.
The question so many people are asking right now is what happens after, you know, now that they've been released? Will these children go back to farm? And what happens? We're talking about food security here, and the insecurity has made it impossible for farmers to even, you know, go back to their farms.
Certainly.
Yes. So, but why do you think that, you know, these kidnappings, you know, cattle rustling, and this insecurity continues to go unabated?
You see, it takes us to the crime triangle, where you have the desire, opportunity, and the reward. Now, the human beings or criminal elements that carry out this crime, it's something that they crave to do. It's a desire, you know. So it takes them for them to have a rethink, not to indulge in that. It's a personal thing. It's a decision that they have taken, that this is what they want to do, you know. So the only reason or the only way I see that we can stop them from embarking or carrying out these criminalities is that the law enforcement should not avail them the opportunity, you know, to carry out this crime, you know. How do you do that now? It's continuous vigilance, you know, surveillance, you know, both ground and in the air, you know. There's a lot that the security agencies need to do to see that they stop these criminal elements for carrying out these crimes of kidnapping, cattle rustling and all that.
So, but beyond, you know, what they need to do, which is actually fine.
Yeah.
You made the point earlier regarding, you know, what happened in this community that we saw, you know, the abduction of the children on farm. But then, don't you think that perhaps the police in that community or nearby maybe may have fewer number and of course maybe much more fewer arms
Yes.
or equipment than the abductors, than the kidnappers who are coming usually in large number and all that. How is that, an issue regarding, securing communities?
You see, we have said this times without number, on way and manner we feel that communities such as that can be protected, considering the number of policemen that we have in Nigeria. We have less than 400,000 policemen, and we have well over 200 million Nigerians. And the number of communities that we have in this country are way, way, way too many that the number of policemen cannot police these communities. So now, how do we resort to policing these communities? We have suggested times with that number that there's need for us to engage local vigilante, because these vigilantes live within their communities. It's possible to have local vigilantes in our communities, but it is not possible to have policemen, regular policemen in our communities. So once you have this, and they work in synergy, it will go a long way in trying to see how to curb these issues we are talking. Now, there was this, I want to commend the current Speaker of the House of Reps, Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila. He tried to see how to put up a committee, a special committee on national security, and that was in June last year, 2021. And memorandum came from different quarters. I sent a memorandum for the committee and order, or to the committee rather, and we made suggestions. That's the committee report, the special national security summit report was submitted to the president with recommendations on how to see how these issues can be mitigated and how the challenges can be handled. I made some recommendations locally, how I feel that these challenges can be handled locally. And I was opportune that my 1 or 2, 3 of my recommendations was in that report. The report was submitted to Mr. President. At the end of it, what happened to the report? Is it that the report has ended up in shelves as usual? For me, I expect that the regular security heads, would have gone out ahead to look at the report. What is the recommendations that Nigerians have put forward, coming from security professionals that they have put forward to see how to handle these challenges? I would have expected that. You see, and going forward, the usual security emergency meetings that the president usually have, I want to feel that or suggest that the scope should be expanded. Not just the heads. When you want to really get or know what is happening, you need to expand that number. Try to see how to bring in private security professionals and other major stakeholders and relevant stakeholders to come in, bring them on board and see these are the problems, this is what we think are the solutions. But restricting it to just those service chiefs and the national security advisor and all that, I don't think it is proper for the nation on how to see how to move security issues forward.
Okay, well, let's have your opinion on the recent, U.S. security alert.
Yes.
What kind of damage do you think this kind of advisory can actually do to a country?
It causes, for instance, it affected economic activities, if you ask me.
A lot of people were in panic.
Yes, a lot of people were, and they became a lot of people were skeptical about how to go about their normal businesses and all that, So such alert, it sends fear, into the populace, and it makes the populace try to lose some kind of confidence in the security agencies that we have, looking at that the alert was coming from a foreign government, in your own country where you live and have hope and faith in the country, So it reduces confidence and it affects economic activities, if you ask me, because a lot of shops, malls were closed down, offices, not run according to the regular duration. You know, they close before when they are supposed to close and all that. So generally, the thing sent panic to Nigerians, and they usually retire to their houses early.
But do you think that was hasty? Do you think that was a proper thing for the U.S. government to do?
First of all, we have to understand that the terror alert wasn't meant for Nigerians. It was meant for their citizens and their staff. Before, I would say, the information got leaked to the general public, before we got to know about it. So for them, they have a mechanism in trying to see how to generate reports like that. It doesn't just come from the blues, you know. And when it has to do with terror alert or terror, you know that after the 9/11 attack on the U.S., they became the forefront of trying to see how to fight terrorism. You know, anywhere in the world, and they hear that an Al-Qaeda leader is elected or have a new leader, of course, you know how they bring them down. You know, so when the information came from them, it didn't come to me as a surprise, because I know that they have all it takes to establish that there was possibly terror plans, you know. But the unfortunate thing is that if the if they have strike, it will be Nigerians would have been the most affected, you know. So it was a good thing that the information or the intelligence came to public knowledge, and our own security agencies came up and tried to see how to beef up security and put up some very serious measures to see that the attack never happened.
Right. So, talking about some of these measures, you know, Mr. Lai Mohammed actually came out to say that, you know, recently there's actually been an increase in fight in the figure of arms and ammunition intercepted by the military, and also arrests of traffickers of illicit drugs. And he also said that there's been significant reductions in killings, violent attacks, kidnapping, rape cases, animal rustling, you know, here, because bandits and terrorists are being neutralized by the military.
Yes. Yeah, I want to believe that. As a fellow of the Nigerian Army Resource Center, I have close ties with the military, especially the Army, you know, and I am seeing the tremendous work they are doing. You can't take that away, you know. You see that they've been launching operations, like very yesterday or so. They launched one in Imo and all that, and they've been doing quite a lot, you know, clearance operations in our forest and all that, with the support of the air component. Yes, you know, supporting the ground troops and all that. So for that, I will give it to Lai Mohammed. It's the fact, and we are seeing results. You know, even Nigerians are seeing results that the military are actually doing very well, you know, in that regard.
Okay, but, you know, on the flip side, reports actually have it that, you know, these aerial bombardments and neutralization of these kidnappers, you know, has actually seen Nigerian security forces repeatedly killed and wounding, you know, civilians on, and their settlements, and bombed their settlements.
Yes. For that, you see, there's need for, that's why most times when we appear on television like this, we tell them that there's need for training and retraining. You know, if the pilots that actually carried out that operations, if they undergone a proper training, you know, they would have been able to target their enemies, you know, from wherever they are up there, you know, instead of hitting on innocent civilians that are going about their normal and lawful businesses. You know, so for that, there's need for them to undergo training and retraining, proper training, so that they can be able to get, you know, target their enemies from wherever they are up there.
Okay. I think, and well, now if you look at the issue of you know, recruitment.
Yes.
You know, I know the point has been made repeatedly about the need to increase the number.
Yeah.
but of course the military is doing some recruitment. Do you think, and the police, do you think the pace or the numbers we are getting in would be sufficient in terms of incremental increase?
I think.
Or do we need to do some maybe massive at once?
Exactly. There's need for massive recruitment, but it depends on the facilities that's on ground to see how the number to carry, you know. So that also calls for consideration. But I think that there's need for us to do massive recruitment, considering the numbers that we have and the number of citizens that we have in this country. You know, officially the UN ratio for a policeman to per number of citizens is supposed to be like 350, 400 in an ideal and sane society where crime is at its barest minimum. But in the situation here where we find ourselves, we don't expect anything less than a policeman to that number. But because of the number of boots that we have on the ground, you have a policeman to well over 1,000 citizens. How would that work? So we need to see how to recruit more, you know, and considering the fact that a larger portion of the police protect VIPs and wealthy individuals that are in Nigeria here, then those of us that are just there are left unpoliced, you know. So there's need for the government to recruit more in all the services and the police that we have.
But some say beyond the addition of numbers,
yes,
it's also how you manage it, especially the issue of interagency collaboration. Are these agencies speaking to themselves? Are they pulling resources together to actually prosecute these laws?
You see, at the top level, there's the synergy at that level. But when you begin to go down, you see that there's lack of synergy amongst the security agencies that we have. You see, every security agency is established either by the Constitution or the acts that establish them, and their duties and responsibilities are clearly spelled out. You know, when the event where there's need for joint operation, you know, amongst the officers or the personnel, there should be a leader who the other agencies would take commands from. You know, so there's need for us to see how to set ego at the corner, you know, because it's a collective responsibility, you know, and the goal should be one to see that Nigeria is safe and secure, you know. So there's no need for any rivalry amongst the security agencies. Synergy is the best word for them. They should see how to work together and see that Nigeria is taken care of.
Okay, so what about internationally? Because the chief of staff to the president, you know, said the country deserves a permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council, yes, you know, considering its contributions to international peacekeeping and economic potential. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, you see, Nigeria has been clamoring for that, you know, and I want to say it's good news because some couple of days ago, a Ghanaian was appointed the UN, the presidency of the UN Security Council. You know, so gradually Africa is coming on board. It mustn't be Nigeria specifically. An African is there. You know, so Nigeria is clamoring for more seats. You know, at the UN Security Council, and I think with dialogue and talk at the table, they will try to see how to give us some more seats for Africans to be there in the UN Security Council.
So, Stephen, there is an issue I want to have your take about. Yeah. You know, especially talking about these international collaborations and all that. You know, some citizens, maybe because of skepticism or lack of knowledge, wonder why Nigeria would be, you know, it has its own issue at home, but taking resources to ensure peace or to, you know, to send peacekeeping missions abroad. I remember there was serious social media uproar recently when the Nigerian government announced a donation of vehicles to Niger Republic. Yeah. How significant are these things?
You see, this situation is a global thing. Nigeria also benefits from other countries through this same means we are talking about. Are you saying that the countries, other countries that donate to Nigerians don't also have their own security challenges? They also have their own security challenges. But you see, it's just a way of supporting each other, you know, because when it has to do with insecurity, for instance, when it has to do with terrorism, it's a global thing. Any country can be attacked. And you know, when a country is attacked, the effect of the attack in certain countries, it boomerangs. It affects other countries, you know. So it is not an unusual thing, you know. It's a normal thing. Nigeria is also benefiting from other countries that also have issues. They have security issues, but they still donate to see that Nigeria is safe, you know. So it's not out of place for Nigeria to begin to see how to support Niger and other neighboring countries, you know. But I think it has to do, what the government needs to do is to see how to create this awareness. Let citizens know that what we are doing is not out of place. You know, we're also benefiting from other countries. It's not abnormal and all that. Let them know. And which agency will do that? The National Orientation Agency can handle such awareness program to sensitize Nigerians, you know, and also the Ministry of Information. DAYBREAK can also talk on that as well.
All right. Well, just before we wrap up, Mr. Stephen, let's have your final thoughts.
Yeah, my final thought is first of all, about citizens. Citizens should be mentally alert. They should be conscious of their environment, considering what we are experiencing now and the situation we find ourselves. And they should ensure that they have security emergency phone numbers on their phones in the event where they see something and they need to say something, and the relevant security agencies that they need to call or draw their attention to, you know. And for the security agencies to keep doing what they are doing. They are trying their best, and the Nigerians hope that they do more so that lives and properties are protected.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Stephen Okori, for spending time and analyzing the security situation in Nigeria with us.
Thank you.